How does wildlife conservation promote biodiversity? Have you ever wondered how wildlife conservation can make a difference in the variety of life on our planet? Wildlife conservation plays a vital role in promoting biodiversity by protecting species and their habitats. It also supports the ecological processes that sustain life. From an anthropological perspective, this effort is not just about biology or ecology. It involves human communities, their knowledge, and their relationships with non-human species. Biodiversity refers to the variety of life forms on Earth. This includes genetic diversity within species, the diversity of species themselves, and the diversity of ecosystems. Wildlife conservation promotes biodiversity by safeguarding these different levels through various strategies. These strategies include creating protected areas, restoring habitats, managing species, and implementing legal protections. One important aspect is the recognition that humans and wildlife interact in complex ways. Anthropology highlights that there is rarely a purely natural environment. Instead, conservation occurs within the context of the Anthropocene, where human activities shape ecosystems. This understanding leads to conservation approaches that integrate local human communities and their traditional ecological knowledge with scientific methods. Such integration helps ensure that conservation efforts are socially sustainable and culturally appropriate. Local and indigenous peoples often possess detailed knowledge about species behaviors and habitat requirements. This knowledge can be critical for conservation planning. Anthropological research documents these systems and practices, showing how they contribute to maintaining biodiversity. For example, traditional land management and hunting regulations can support the survival of rare species and preserve genetic diversity. Wildlife conservation also involves managing not just the physical presence of animals but also their behaviors and social structures. Conservation efforts may aim to maintain species' cultural practices that enable survival and reproduction. This approach recognizes animals as social beings with complex interactions, not merely biological units. Conservation programs increasingly emphasize the participation of local populations in decision-making. Effective biodiversity conservation depends on the cooperation of people living near wildlife habitats. This participatory approach links local communities with national and international conservation agencies. Together, they create networks that support biodiversity through shared goals. In practical terms, wildlife conservation promotes biodiversity by establishing protected areas that preserve critical habitats. It supports community-based conservation projects that empower local people to manage resources sustainably. It integrates scientific research with ethnographic methods to understand human-wildlife interactions. It also manages animal populations to maintain genetic diversity and species viability. Restoring degraded habitats supports ecosystem functions, and recognizing animal behaviors is essential for species survival. From an anthropological viewpoint, wildlife conservation promotes biodiversity by addressing the intertwined biological, ecological, and sociocultural dimensions of life. It involves collaborative efforts that respect and incorporate local knowledge and practices. This approach acknowledges that conserving wildlife and biodiversity is about sustaining human relationships with nature as much as it is about protecting species.